So today I want to make one of my absolute favorite breads in the entire world. It's a part of my childhood, and it's something that here in Europe I have not been able to find, and that is Hawaiian sweetbread. It's really light and fluffy and just the right amount of sweet without being like a dessert. So we're gonna make that today, and it's gonna be super awesome. What I have in my mixing bowl right now is I have my flour, my yeast, and my salt. I'm gonna give this just a quick turn in the mixer, just to mix it all together. That's all it took. And then what you see in this mystery cup of deliciousness is butter, honey, pineapple juice, and buttermilk. We're going to heat this, or rather I did heat this to about 110 degrees Fahrenheit or about 43 degrees Celsius. And then I'm going to add this to my flour. And I'm going to turn my mixer on low, and I'm going to mix all that together just until it's combined, until we don't have any dry flour laying around. If your mixer is anything like mine, it's not going to mix all the dry ingredients all on its own, so a quick scrape of the bowl will fix your problem. Now, we need to add, and I know this is a little bit funny, we need to add half of a beaten egg. We're going to save the other half for later, and this is going to be a little bit delicate because if you've ever tried to separate an egg when it's beaten, it's not fantastically easy, but we're just going to do our best. There we go. And then you can set this aside for later because this little bit of egg, we can use that right before the bread bakes. And now we are going to mix this on low until the egg is completely incorporated, and then I'm going to use the machine to knead the dough until it's smooth and elastic and coming all the way off the sides of the bowl. If you're kneading with a machine, you'll do it on medium speed for probably 6 to 8 minutes with this bread. And that, my friends, is a kneaded dough, elasticy, one ball, etc. I'm just going to wet my hands, my fingertips really quickly because that'll help my hands not to stick to this dough. And we're just going to pull this off the hook. We're going to put this dough into an oiled bowl, and we're going to cover the dough, and we're going to let the dough sit for about an hour and a half because we want it to double in size. Here's my bowl. So all that I need to do is transfer this dough to this bowl and put it in a nice, dry, warm place with no drafts or air that moves a lot through the room. So you don't want to put it next to an open window, for example. All right. So here we are. I like to make it into a little ball, but you don't have to do that. This is ready to rise. We're going to cover it and let it sit until it doubles in size. Oakley dokley, rising time is complete, so I'm going to go ahead and prepare my loaf pan right here by spraying it with some cooking spray. And then I'm going to grab my bread dough and we're going to form this loaf. Now before we empty this beautiful bread dough out onto the counter, we do need a layer of flour because this is a pretty soft dough and we don't want it to stick. It is possible you might need more than this, so just keep some extra flour handy. We will punch the dough. Pew! And then we'll empty them out onto the work surface. And now really all that we're going to do is just very gently kind of form this into a little loaf and plop it into our pan. It's not going to look like much, but I promise you, it's going to grow. Your loaf does not have to be perfect. It's going to expand a lot in the pan and take on the shape of the pan. So we just want like a nice long log. Your loaf will not fill the pan. But trust me, it will later. So that's all that we needed to do. Now I'm going to put this back in a nice, warm, dry place with a towel over it for about an hour and a half again. And basically, once it's pushing up against that towel, it's ready to bake. All right, oven is preheated to approximately 175 degrees Celsius. I will translate that in the comments. But for a loaf of this bread, it's going to take a little bit longer to bake at a little bit lower heat than normal. If I was doing my Hawaiian sweet rolls, for example, I would probably bake those rolls at about 190 degrees Celsius for about 20 minutes. But because this is a bigger, thicker loaf, we're going to reduce the temperature just so it doesn't brown quite as quickly and probably bake this for 30 to 40 minutes. So let's grab our loaf and then we can egg wash it and stick it in the oven. Look at how pretty and perfect he is. So we're going to do this very gently. We don't want to catch the dough and deflate it. And if you remember the half egg that I had left over, that's actually what I'm using to egg wash this. I just mixed it with a little bit of olive oil. And this is ready for us to pop it into our oven. I've lowered my oven rack to the lowest setting because I don't want this right next to the top burners, the top heating element of my oven, because it's going to poof up a lot and it's going to get brown really quickly if we're not careful. So into the oven it goes. We'll see you in 30 to 40 minutes. Our loaf has just come out of the oven, freshly baked right now. So you can see it's got a really, really dark color. And if I tap the loaf, it sounds very hollow and sturdy. Hopefully that's a finished loaf. So in about 5, 6, 7 minutes maybe, what I'm going to do is I'm going to pop this loaf out of this pan because a nice soft bread like Hawaiian bread tends to sweat as it cools down and get wet and then soggy at the bottom. And then we're going to set our bread on this rack to cool. And here she is, our delicious loaf of Hawaiian sweetbread. Enjoy.